What was the question?
Awesome.
So we are officially recording. So what's going on? Welcome back to the internet's #1 success podcast, Into the Mind, where we break down and analyze characteristics, strategies, and stories of successful entrepreneurs, investors, and high achievers, where we can together learn from their mindsets and be inspired by their victories, replicate their formulas for success, and avoid some of the mistakes they've made. I'm your host, Marlon Johnson, former parkour athlete turned full-time real estate investor and entrepreneur. And I'm on a mission to become a multimillionaire before 30 so that I can teach others how to do the same. So today you might notice that we've got 3 people on, unless you're listening to the audio and you just found out. We have 3 people on. We're hanging out with David, Paul, and Sherry. These are investors based out of Georgia, and they are on a mission. They are rocking on a mission right now to obtain and acquire over $100 million in real estate holdings. I met them at the Growth Conference just a few weeks ago, and they had some phenomenal energy. So we're going to be diving deeply in today to their story, what they've got going on, and learn about where they're at in their investing career. So help me out with welcoming them to the show, and let's see how we go with sharing the mic today. So what's going on, everybody? How are y'all?
Doing great.
Yes.
Awesome. So I want to jump into it. And oh, by the way, if any of the listeners are listening, if we start to cut out at all, I do apologize, but this is what happens in entrepreneurship. We start making things work. So we got David and Paul driving in their car. I feel like I should be in my car as well. But me and Sherry, we're stationary. We're at home today. So worst case scenario, we'll kick these 2 guys out and we'll run the show ourselves.
All right.
So let me know. I'm curious. How did all 3 of you come together? Like, David, I guess you want to take that one?
Sure. So, basically, end of 2019, when I started studying the multifamily real estate space,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a construction business of 20 plus years or so, and I needed some help. I was still working in the field a lot, and I needed some help to grow the real estate business. And so I started putting in some ads, and I did them locally in the Nextdoor app. I figured I'd find somebody close to my house. I found Sherry. We met a coffee shop. Long story short, I had interviewed a couple people. She's super sharp. Hired Sherry. She would come to the office. I'd be out in the field sometimes. Long story short, she's a super amazing person when it comes to helping with us with everything and anything. And a lot of times she doesn't even need direction. She just takes the lead and just goes and does what needs to be done. Not like call me every 5 seconds. Hey Dave, hey Dave, hey Dave, hey Dave. Then as we were struggling a little bit, so we heard that we needed to start networking more. And what we did was we ended up networking with about 5 different individuals across the U.S. Paul happened to be local. So we decided to meet up. He came over to my house / home office. And from there, we collaborated and started running numbers on the multifamily space, and started getting some stuff under contract. It took a little bit of time to get some stuff under contract, but that's how we met, basically through networking.
Man, I love that. And I gotta say, you just sparked a very important question, because I know pretty much every entrepreneur listening right now is like, how the heck do you find a Sherry? Because you just described she's like the backbone of everything. When you just described having someone that you can work with where you're not constantly having to follow up. So Sherry, I gotta know, where do we find, a bajillion of you? How do we make more of you?
I have no idea, but I mean, I'm feeling really flattered at this moment. I'm just going to say, but, I came from a background of a family business, and so my dad was hardcore work ethic. Whenever you're at work, you work. And so sometimes, David's he's been great. He's like, hey, Sherry, you can do some of this stuff from home. And I'm like, no, I can't, David. If I'm at home, I have people and things. I'll see dirt in the floor, and I'll be like, oh, I need to sweep that up right now, or, oh, there's this and I need to go do that. And so I can't be at home, but when I'm here, it's like I'm here and I'm in it and I'm in the zone, And so having some background in a business family or a family business, I think, and having those type of that work ethic because
Mhm.
my mom and dad both were hardcore at work. You work hard for what, for everything. And so anyway, but so luckily having some of that background, I've been in accounts payable, accounts receivable, hiring, firing, and then in all the details of the work. And David will tell you I'm very detailed and meticulous. I like to know that the decisions I'm going to make are the right decisions. I want to weigh all the things out. I'll talk with my peeps and be like, oh, what do you think about this? Or I'm thinking about that. And, because I do work for David and and coming from the kind of business where you used to call the shots, I want to know that I'm getting his approval, and I'm not just doing things that he'll go, oh, no, you shouldn't have said that. Oh, that kind of thing. Um, so anyway, I think that probably just getting years of experience under your belt, and then luckily I'm so glad I met David because like he said, I live right around the corner from him. I saw the ad come up and I saw the ad and I was like, oh, real estate, that sounds interesting. I've always thought that would be interesting. No, I'm going to go work at Costco. It'll just be easy. I'm just going to go work at Costco. I'm going to get great medical benefits and I'm set, that kind of thing. And then his ad popped back up again. I thought that's weird because I don't really get on here that much. Why does it keep showing me this? Maybe I should reach out to him. And then the rest is history, so.
Wow.
And now I own in 6 apartments, actually in the duplex. So, we're making it happen.
I love
Yes.
that. I love that. And that's actually the power right there too. I love how, because David puts something out there, right? Because he starts getting loud. He starts like what Grant says, promote, 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 right? Speak about what you got going on. If David said, you know what, I don't want to put it out there, you would have never found it. I love what you said. You came across it, kind of brushed it off, but you saw it again. Like, oh, this thing was there. It's persistent. And now this team is beginning to form, that team connect. And like the value add you bring, I can tell you from my side, like as in my world as an entrepreneur, and I'm sure David could relate, and every other entrepreneur out there, when we find somebody to join on the team that they really help and they bring that value you bring of being able to see and assess what needs to be done, that's critical. So critical. So that's super cool. And Paul, I'm curious, man, like, so you see like this tag team duos out there and you decide to come on board. What was it about seeing David and Sherry that like, you were like, okay, I'm interested?
I think it was more or less, it was, they were local and a lot of the guys that I talked to in the past were not local. So I was like, David, I'm around the corner. Let's connect. Let's see if there's any synergy together. Let's see if we can work together. I said, David was like, yeah, come out to the office. So I came out to the office. I brought some of the deals that I was analyzing and we literally like introduced each other, sat down, the 3 of us, and just literally that day started analyzing deals. We're like, right when we started doing that, I was like, hey, if we see a deal that makes sense, we'll put in an offer and then we'll just partner up on the deal together, like right then and there. Because obviously a lot of people don't understand this, but multifamily is a team sport. It's not like single family where you're taking down deals by yourself. Multifamily, you have to have a group around you to be able to take down the big deals. You have to, it's imperative. And if you're trying to do it by yourself, I highly recommend getting more people involved because you can definitely grow faster, stronger, and more powerful by having a good team around you, for sure.
I love that because I actually always say this, like life is a team sport. Entrepreneurship is a team sport, especially multifamily. And multifamily is a new space that I have not yet began diving into. So I'm happy to hear you say that. And what I want to highlight this because I'm always doing this. You guys are going to notice I do this a lot. When I hear like a gem, I'm going to pull it out because I want to make sure the audience doesn't miss it, which is, Paul, you said you went there. You said, let's find out if there's any synergy. Not let's go and create synergy. Not let's figure out how we can force ourselves to work together, but let's go discover if there is something here already. And that's critical, right? So now that the 3 of you, and essentially from my understanding, you said there's 5 in total, but 3 of y'all on here right now, as you've been working together, what has that been like? What have been some of the ups and downs as far as the situations or the deals that you guys have come across?
I don't think there's really been any downs to the group, right? I mean, it's Sherry's great. Sherry runs like a mad woman on the office side. Like she's sending that, like, ordering surveys, ordering phase 1. She's the organized person that, I'm not organized at all. So having her as part of the team is like a home run for me. Even though it seems like we know each other forever, even though we just met like a year ago, right? But it's just like she understands. Like I think that's my downsuit. David said that's his downsuit too. It's just like neither one of us are real organized because we're always on the go so much. We're constantly analyzing deals. We're constantly running out doing things. David's still running his construction company some. I've actually got a dental supply company that I still run on the back end, right? That pays the bills and stuff like that. So it's like we're constantly doing things, and having Sherry there is more like she's almost like a moderator. She's like, hey, Paul, you're getting off track. You need to do this. Hey, David, you're getting off track. You need to do this, right? She sort of keeps us in line. It's like having that office mom in a way.
Yeah.
It winds up being great for us.
And the other thing, Marlon, is basically just learning to accept people, as they are. Everybody, we all have some strengths, and there's certain strengths Paul has from a sales perspective. Sherry has more strengths, in the office. I love running numbers. That's me. I'm a numbers guy. And learning it's accepting people and our faults. And then the other big thing about all of us, we just have like that drive and work ethic to be like me and Paul. If it's a Saturday, Sunday morning, and I'm texting you, he's not going to wait till Sunday to respond. Sunday, some people are going to go, oh, I'm not working Sunday morning. Shit. I mean, we were on the phone at 7 or out of town this past Sunday, and he was calling me at 7 a.m., 7:30, because he knows I'm up at 4 and 5 o'clock in the morning.
I think
That's the key for us.
You hit the matrix there for a second, David, but it's all good.
The matrix ate you up for a second, but I caught that. And, that's actually really powerful, having a team where everybody is, having a team where everybody essentially is on the same work ethic, right? Being able to put in the same amount of hours where you're not convincing. Because again, I think a lot of people, keep asking that question, like, how do I get my guys to work more? How do I get my team to work more? Listen, you got to find the people that already want to do that. And I want to highlight something, Paul, you brought note to, and David, you kind of alluded to this as well, where as you're in these multifamily deals and you're analyzing a lot of deals, you also have something else on the back end that is allowing you to go for the day-to-day, right? To keep the lights on, because multifamily, and correct me if I'm wrong, has a tendency to be a longer turnover time, right? It's a longer cycle from start to finish to get a deal done, to really be able to extract the profit from it and things of that nature. So for newer people that are maybe starting to look at the space, would you recommend, if they don't have anything going for them, they maybe first get something established for the day-to-day, or is it okay to just say balls to the wall, jump deep in? How would you advise for someone to maybe enter the space? Would there be things that you wish you knew entering into the space that you didn't know at the very beginning?
And I think that you've got to be realistic and know that on a multifamily deal, you're going to be looking at a timeline of somewhere probably between 90 to 120 days from the time that you get a deal under contract, not from when you start analyzing, but from when it's under contract to the time you're going to close on it, because you've got to get your environmentals and your surveys done and things like that. And right now, a lot of these guys are backed up. They're not even able to get to the surveys or their environmentals for 45 days, which is pushing all your closings back. So to answer the question, I think that if you've got money saved up, then it's fine. But if you don't have a little bit of a nest egg set aside to be able to pay your bills, maybe looking to start like wholesaling houses to get started, or if you want to just do real estate full time, wholesale some houses or something like that, where you can quickly wholesale a house and make $10,000, which will pay your bills for at least a month. And then if you sell wholesale one house, or something along those lines. I mean, it's great to have some sort of a backup plan, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some way to make money, because otherwise you're just going to stress yourself out. And then you might be pushing so hard because you're like, oh, my money's running short. Let me try to push this deal so hard that you might make the wrong decision and get into the wrong deal.
And that's big, right? Like getting into, because you'll see it like with, especially in the multifamily space, any space in real estate, but especially in the multifamily, you're going to be passing on a lot of deals before you say yes. Before you come across the one that works, you're going to be saying no to a lot.
Yeah, and then on top of that, you basically, once you find a deal that makes sense, then everybody else wants that deal. So you may take you 10 of those deals to get one under contract. So yeah, having like Paul said and what you asked about having some income, having something a backup, starting small it doesn't hurt, because I started back in like 2004 with the single family stuff,
Mhm.
and then ran away from real estate for a little while. 2019 came along, we were hitting it hard for once we learned the space, because I learned from two different groups. Basically, we would run numbers on all these deals, and we weren't getting stuff under contract because it's very competitive, the space. So once we went back to the basics, to our smaller properties, it opened up the door to the bigger ones. So that's what we started. We went back and got a duplex. We did a flip, got another flip, and then it started building on there, and that's helped us get exposure, and then have some brokers and real estate agents help bring deals to us.
I love that. And so let me ask you this question, right? Because I think as people are, listening and they're thinking, okay, like, I've got to be able to analyze deals. Are you, and I ask this because I work with a lot of wholesalers, right? And, they often struggle, especially like when they're on the phone with the sellers, like, oh, it could almost be a deal. It's like, are you finding deals or are you making deals? And I make that differentiation.
Yeah, I think I grab it. We started trying to find deals for a little while. We were taught, go into different systems that to find multifamily property owners, and then you could skip trace and find numbers and try that route, whether it be emailing, cold calling, or doing mailers. So we've done a lot of all of that, but not on a large scale. We were successful in the realms of that route didn't work. Ours was finding deals that were out in the space, stuff that might have been a little smaller, that your bigger groups don't want the smaller stuff, and then stuff that might have been sitting around for a long time, and maybe someone sees this little city name that they know nothing about, and it may just be a suburb of a big city, we're doing that, and that seemed to help escalate us. So for us, it wasn't making the deal; it was more or less finding the deal. Find it from. I think I'm screwing up my words here, but the internet, and then finding people that would send stuff to us off market.
And lately, what we've done a lot of is we've started to talk to a lot more brokers. And when we're talking to these brokers, we're letting them know, look, what we're looking for is off-market deals. And like I said, I mean, networking is everything. Like Dave and I go to a networking event here. It's called CCC, Contractors and Closers event. They've got them. They're trying to get 6 cities that they're going this year. So they're going to have one in Miami, Tampa. There's one here in Atlanta, Phoenix, Arizona. But they're doing them all over. So we happened to go to one of those events. And at the event, I met Michael Bull, who's with Bull Realty, one of the larger commercial real estate firms. He's the CEO. Started talking to him, and then the next day I just emailed him. It was great meeting you at the event. This is what our goal is. We're going to buy $100 million worth of real estate this year. Would love to grab lunch or buy you lunch one day and just talk to you more about it. So then he put me in charge of with the vice president of his multifamily group. And she's already sent me, within like a week and a half, she's probably sent me 6 off-market deals that she's got, that she knows of. So again, it's getting in the rooms, talking to people. You never know who you're going to rub elbows with that might be the next person that's going to give you a lot of off-market deals. It's going to help you get there. So again, it's connecting with people. And one of the things I want to go back to the people that you meet in network settings. So one of the things I've started doing lately within the last year, which I think is really helping out, is when you're talking to people, learn about what they do, learn about more about them. What is their strengths, right? And then once you learn their strengths, it's like, how can I put what this person does and what their strength is into what my goal is to get to the next level? And you look at everybody and you look at everybody's strengths and you say, okay, this person strength might be education. Well, I don't have a spot for education right now, but as I grow in multifamily, yes, we would have, David and I have already talked about it. We would like to eventually start training people on how to do real estate more proficiently and how to get into commercial real estate and start like that and create a course, which at that point we need somebody that's good in education, right? So that person, you just write their name down. It might not be now, it might be 3 years down the road, 2 years down the road, but I already know that person's good at that. So why not go ahead and put them in my Rolodex basically for that position down the road?
That is powerful right there. And that is something, it's funny. I don't think I've heard many people ever vocalize that, you know, essentially as you go out and network, keeping in tab, like, cause we learn to keep a CRM of our, you know, of our leads, of our clients, of our sellers, things of that nature, but actually keeping a CRM essentially on the people that we meet at these networking events, right? The value that they can bring and the value ultimately we can bring to them. You know, so I do want to ask, right? You said it's about getting in the room. And I've been having a lot of people ask me this question on, like, it's no joke. They've been saying, how are you finding all the rooms to get into, right? How are you finding the good rooms to get into? So when you're looking for different events that you feel are, hey, this one might be worth attending, and maybe this one's, you know, we put it on the back burner. What's your certain, your criteria, if you will, or your guys's, or all of your criteria when it comes to selecting events that you would possibly attend?
Well, from
David,
a
you want to take
local standpoint, yeah. So from, you know, when you're starting out, I almost think of it like baby steps, man. You get into any local event, any real estate event, anything that's where people are just gathering that are in the business. And then from there, it seems like it grows. Then someone will say, hey, you should check out this event that's over in this part of town. And then as you grow more and more and more, and then you get involved with all the internet stuff with Facebook and Instagram, and then you get part of all the different groups on, for instance, Facebook, we're on a lot of different groups there. And then from there, they'll say, hey, we're having a meetup, you know, Paul, myself, and a friend of ours is an ER doctor. You know, something popped up for South Carolina. So Charleston, South Carolina, we're like, hey, they said there's a networking event in like 4 weeks or something like that. We decided that we're going to that networking event. You know what I mean? So I think as you start, man, you get in everything you possibly can because you're also learning. And then as you learn, then you can get a little more selective where you go. But then, for instance, like where we met you at the Grant Cardone event, that event is absolutely, we weren't even planning on going just because the group that's helping us with a deal, be our key principal to sign on a big loan. They were like, you guys got to go. You got to go. We're like, me and Paul are like, do we really want to go all the way to Florida? We've been to all this different. We went and it was amazing. So hopefully that summarizes, but it's just, man, get everywhere you can when you're starting. Absolutely.
I love that, you know, because again, like I want some of the listeners to hear this from like somebody else that's not me, because I have the same advice, you know, but sometimes it's got to come from another voice, right? And I know a lot of people, like, they're overwhelmed. They're like, oh, do I belong in the room yet? Can I bring any value to the room yet? What would you say to someone that's maybe brand new? Like, hey, David, look, I haven't even bought my first property yet. You know, like, and these guys, they're big time investors. You know, it's like, I don't even know real estate yet. You know, should I wait before I get into the room?
No, absolutely not. That's what they teach everybody. As successful people typically say, they always try to find somebody smarter to work with.
Mm-hmm.
So if you find the next guy that's smarter than you want to network with that person. So yeah, I mean, but I think what the other important thing to note is if I'm new, don't go making some stories up to them saying how, oh, you've been doing this for years and years and years, because then they're going to call your bluff, and that's not really help you with networking. But yeah, just get into the room and yeah, let people know you're new, and people always tend to want to help. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then that'll just help you grow faster, I think.
I love that. So if you guys are listening, right, like it truly is an advantage, especially when you are in the proper room, to let them know you're new. Like David just said, people want to help. The right room, if you're in the right environment at the right, I call it the campfire. If you're standing around the right campfire and they see that you actually, you know, got out of your comfort zone to be there and you are just authentic, they will pour into you more than you can ever possibly imagine. So
That's for
I'm
sure.
curious to know.
And
Um,
Let
also-
me touch one thing on that too. So, I mean, a lot of people, I mean, even I think myself, David, everybody, when you first start going out and getting into these rooms, it's scary. It really is. Like, you don't know, like, just going up to people and talking to total strangers, right? It's hard at first, especially your very first events you go to, right? You're a little bit shy, you're a little bit intimidated. And like, it's normal though. Don't think that you're not normal because you sort of feel that way when you're walking into these rooms. But the more you do it, the easier it gets. Trust me, the more and more you do it, the easier it'll get. And then before you know it, you're just walking in, you're talking to everybody, and you're acting like you own the place.
Yep. Can I share a secret? When we were at Growth Conference, I actually made it a point that anyone that, I felt like almost like nervous or somewhat uncomfortable, or I naturally wouldn't just walk over and go speak to, I actually would go over and just start talking to them. It's like, even like David, like I forget like how you and I started talking about, like, I think I saw you like as I was coming out of the bathroom, and I was like, I don't know that guy. We got to go start talking.
Yep.
And,
Yes.
it was amazing, like just conversation, a good connection. It was just like, wow, here's someone else that has that life in their eyes, that fire in their eyes. And I want to add this recommendation for people, and I'm sure that you and Paul do this, right? That Paul, yourself and David and Sherry, when you all go to events, that you don't bunch up together, but you actually spread out amongst the room. So you're not just talking to one another the entire time, but you actually go out and make separate connections, and you will go out and connect with different people. Is that a safe assumption?
Yeah, I mean, that's correct. Like, David was like, dude, I didn't even know that you met Michael Bull with Bull Realty at the event the other day. He was like, why didn't you tell me? I was like, I was just talking to him and got his business card. And sometimes I don't like, he introduced himself more. I was like, hey, I'm Michael with Bull Realty. And I didn't look at his business card when he hands it to me. I just usually don't. I put him in my pocket. So really, I didn't realize that he was the CEO of Bull Realty until the next day when I looked at his card. But at the same time, I mean, that just goes to show, like, David was all the way on the other side of the room, had no clue I was talking to him,
Yep. And that's the way it should be. So I got a question, and this one's geared at you, Sherry. With them being essentially like, I get a sense like entrepreneurs, we tend to get a little squirrel brained, right? Running around and just, shiny object, shiny object, shiny object. What are you doing to help reel them in and to keep things concise and moving forward? Because that is literally like, if you have an answer for that, you are like solving one of the biggest problems like in our space that most of us deal with as a challenge.
Well, now keep in mind, David and I are the ones that normally work together, and David is very shiny and squirrely, and we are, and there's been many times that he's been looking for the low lying fruit, right? Because he did leave his job, and I want to kind of go back and even talk about what y'all were saying with that earlier. I hope people realize, like you said, it's a ways down the road before you see that money. So if you don't have enough money saved up, don't quit your job right now. It was a big leap. David had some money, he had access to some money, but he waited a while before he quit his job. And then as he starts to see those funds go down and we haven't got the deals, then he starts looking for that low fruit. He's like, oh, maybe we need to do this, maybe we need to do that. And so there were some times, and then I look at him as he's my boss. He's also my business partner, because we have some properties now together. But whenever I'm looking at him as my boss, I approach him, I, say, hey, I think that we should do this, to just kind of keep him on track whenever we do get to have a time to sit down and actually talk about things like that, about how we need to approach things. So it's just a sit down heart to heart. He knows, his wife knows that my goal is to help, my goal is to help them as much as I can for them to get where they want to be. I wouldn't be even in this situation if it weren't for David. I didn't even know what multifamily investing was. I thought that was for rich people way up high. And that, when I passed an apartment building, I just thought, oh, somebody really rich owns that. I didn't realize that it can work the way that it works, so anyway, so yeah, don't quit your day job just yet, unless you've got a chunk of money. You want to hold on to that. And I want to add something back in, another thing, kind of spinning back to where you were a while ago, is that I think that if somebody's wanting to get into this, because now that I know what it is and how it is, do some soul searching, find out what your strength is, and then go, how can I help somebody else? And when you do that, when you go and you approach somebody in that way, you can, start off, if you have to, work for free, give it for free, because you're going to learn and get what you need, and then the increase will come to you. So, that's what God says always, you take it to him and he'll provide the increase. So that's, how people, if they'll approach it that way, and you'll really look out for other people in that way, he'll add the increase and you'll be okay.
Sherry, you're speaking to my soul right now. You're speaking to my soul. And it's funny because since you all know Keston as well, you know that this month has been all about submission, right?
That's right.
Being, obedient to the mission, obedient to the vision. And it's such a beautiful thing when you see how a team is able to come together on that, when you're able to recognize, hey, the role of essentially, let's call it the leader, is not to have the attention be on themselves, but to shift that attention onto the vision, onto the goal. And then the team, the followers, the helpers, the people that are helping make this vision a reality should be coming back and saying like, hey, leader, if you're falling off the vision, hey, reminding each other constantly. It's a back and forth, right? It's a together, like we're all on the same page together, looking to create the same thing. I absolutely love that, because that's crucial. And I'm starting to feel how this team and how you guys work, how it's a dynamic situation here.
Well, and let me touch base on exactly what you were just saying, right? So David and I down in Columbus, Georgia, South Georgia, David got under contract 2 quadruplexes side by side.
Mm-hmm.
So 8 units total. And David and I were sitting there talking, and it was, we can close on them. We can renovate them. We can rent them out for pretty decent money and hold them. But does that really fit into our long-term goal, right? I mean, we're trying to go big. So how much is 8 doors really going to help us right now when we could maybe just wholesale them back out? Like we were talking about wholesale them back out, basically make a little bit and use that money to propel us to the next deal, right? So that's ultimately what we're doing right now. We're getting them both under a contract with another buyer, or signing the contract and taking down that deal so that we can focus on the bigger picture down the road.
So let's talk about that for a second, because Paul, you struck a chord with me. You struck a nerve, man, because I do something every day at 11 o'clock where I take out an hour of my schedule to help people. Just here's my calendar link, book time with me, the entire 30-minute session, 2 30-minute sessions, just whatever questions you need. It could be business, personal, whatever. Like, it's all about you. And what I've been finding is a lot of people, when I ask them, what do you need, are a little lost. So I simply ask, well, what are you going for? And they don't know what they're aiming for. So I love what you just said, because you know what you're aiming for. The decision-making process today becomes a lot easier when you're looking at an opportunity to now figure out, does this make sense to move forward with, or does it not? Because it's not that this is a bad deal. It's, does this deal move me any closer to the vision that I have set for me? Because now we're looking at opportunity cost. And that's something I think a lot of people don't measure.
Yep. Agreed completely.
So I love that. I absolutely love that you use that, the vision as a, basically you're using this as a reference point of, hey, how far away are we from the vision with making this decision? Is it getting us closer, or is it moving us further away?
Yep.
Right now with just the industry and single family, multi-family, it's such a sort of, it's so competitive out there. So we just happen to have a few things that came our way, and we're like, hey, we're putting an offer in on that, because even if it doesn't fit our criteria, a couple of dollars coming in from that deal will fit our criteria, because that just keeps us, keeps lights on. We can go out and have a steak dinner maybe after it closes, that kind of a thing, So
I love that. So I want to know, especially from having been in a space where you have worked smaller deals, single family, fix and flip, things of that nature, to now moving into the multifamily space where you're looking at larger numbers, right? Everything about it gets scaled up. The amount, the property management, the due diligence, like all of it gets scaled up. what sort of mental shift did you have to go through, if any, really in order to start tackling on this multifamily space? I'd love to hear from each of you, because especially you, Sherry, because it sounds like, especially with the comment you made earlier, that, oh my gosh, like I didn't even realize this was possible for me. I always just assumed it was for some folks out there who were flying around to their private islands, island hopping all day.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, can, ask the question. Ask me specifically again. Ask me that question, and I'm gonna try to give you an answer.
Yeah. So I want to know, what sort of mindset shift did you have to go through in order to start coming into this space? Are there different, like, basically, is your mind fighting against you sometimes as you're looking at these deals, thinking like, I can't do this? Or was there something that you had to work through to get yourself to the place where you're saying, oh no, this is very possible?
So yeah, I would say because we didn't really have a network, like it depends on where you come from and what kind of network you have. Maybe you already know people who have a good amount of money or something like that. And the few, and I've told David this several times, is that the few people I know who do have a little bit of money, I'm not asking them for their money until I'm already invested myself in some sort of way. Either I'm managing properties and I'm successful at it, or I've got my money in it and I see that it's going to be okay. I'm not going to ask other people that trust me, whenever I haven't proven this, right, myself. I haven't got my own skin in the game. So when I first came on board here, I think that looking at these big deals that were expensive and stuff, I was thinking, where are we going to get the money? Who do we know? And this kind of thing. And so we didn't really have a network yet. And it takes a while it took a while for us to build our network, and then it even got to the point to where we've heard the law of the first deal. I can't tell you how many times I've heard people talk about the law of the first deal. You got to break that law of the first deal. And we were close to breaking the law last year, and it didn't happen. We got so close. I mean, we were down to the day of closing and stuff, and things fell apart and we didn't go to close, and it was heartbreaking. It was David and Paul had money in it. They had to let go of that money, some of them, you know what I'm saying, because they could have went back to their investors and said, oh well, hey, sorry guys, it fell apart, so this is what it cost for us to get to this point. You don't get your money back. But they didn't. These two guys ate that money.
Wow.
They ate it. And that was hard, and anyway, so after that, I thought we just got to get into some sort of deal. I told David, I said, I don't care if it's a little bitty deal. I just want to get into a deal. We got to break that law of the first deal. And then David started looking in Columbus, Georgia. And I thought, well, that's 2.5 hours away, but okay, we'll go down there. And we bought a duplex. And because of that, and it doesn't qualify as our law of the first deal probably, but because of that duplex, we made a relationship with that broker. And one day I was like coughing my head off. I mean, I had I don't know if, I'm pretty sure I had COVID, but anyway, coughing my head off, and I'm into the phone and I can barely speak. I'm coughing so hard. And I'm like, if you find us a deal, we'll pay you a fee, this kind of thing. And it wasn't no time after that she brings us a deal, and it's the one that these guys are working to close on right now, and because of that, and because all of this, how it came together, Keston, we met through a networking group that David started, a local networking group. And here comes Keston, and he sits down and he tells us how he's doing all this single family. And I'm loving his story and everything, but I'm thinking, gosh, I feel bad for Keston. I mean, this is single family. He's doing single family and stuff, and this is all multi-family. And I just, I'm sure he'll get there sometime. Well, we kept, talking to Keston, just randomly about whatever, was coming up. And then next thing you know, Keston's in here working this deal with us on this multifamily, and it's going to be Keston's first big multifamily deal, And so that was building. In the meantime, I found a deal online, and it was direct to owner of a little bitty 6 unit. And I'm all excited about this 6 unit, because I'm thinking this is a little deal. We can get into this one, and it'll be our law. This will actually qualify as our law of the first deal. We'll break the law of the first deal. And so we just closed on it. It took a bunch of stuff to get there. I mean, because of, you just have to say the owner, she's elderly and she's in California, and here we are in Georgia, and it was just a thing back and forth. But anyway, I think it's just, for me, it was, I had just a little bit of money, and I saw the potential of what all these people are doing, because David has brought me along for the ride. Anytime that there's any kind of education, videos, whatever, he let me be a part of that. And I saw what was happening. And so I was growing and mentally preparing. And so finally I told David, I was like, hey, I got a little bit of money and I'll put it in there. Whenever we find something, I'll go. And every chance that, every opportunity that I could help them out, whether it be with earnest money or whatever, I've tried to do my part. And, we're seeing where it's going. So I've been growing.
You have no idea how excited I am right now. Cause again, normally my interviews are one-on-one, and I'm getting to have a team right now, and I'm seeing I'm like, wow, this is a solid team. I'm seeing just the way you guys the energy there. And I'm thinking, okay, this is super cool to hear just how, everyone's consistently boosting each other up, growing each other up, right? David isn't, because we see this sometimes where a teammate feels well, this is my value add. I don't necessarily want to share it with the other person because now they're not going to need me. And it's the complete opposite, where he's saying, hey, this is everything I have. Take a look. And you're vice versa. You're now doing the same thing. You're reciprocating that back to him. I love this. I'm just gonna share.
We do too. They say team together, everybody achieves more, So
no, it's absolutely true.
I don't have all the strengths. She doesn't have all the strengths. We all have to rely on each other. And I said the biggest thing. So you brought up that the question from the standpoint of the jump from a smaller deal to bigger deals.
Mm-hmm.
So the biggest thing is, I think, education. I took 2 different courses, Ari Mentor and then Tim Bratz with Commercial Empire.
Oh, nice.
And I believe that's what really helped us escalate Commercial Empire, where they did Zoom calls when you took their course. I went down February 2020 in Tampa. After that, we were connected every day, Monday through Friday. You could get on an hour Zoom call with their team that was, at the time, had probably 2,000 or 3,000 doors under their belt. And they were in the multifamily space. And that really helped project us. So, yeah, it's definitely scary because you don't really know how to underwrite the bigger deals. Single family's done differently than the multifamily. So yeah, I think getting the education is really big. And we always tell everybody, if anybody's ever interested in learning, we're all about teaching. I'm not going to ask you for money. Eventually, if we do the course, then of course we would sell the course. But right now, we always tell anybody, if this is something you want to do, and you don't have the money to go pay for some guy's course, come on, hang out with us. We're perfectly fine with sharing the knowledge, because I know it just helps me grow. I'm trying to teach somebody.
Yep.
So, and then eventually that person's going to have a deal and go, well, I don't know what to do. Well, where are they going to take it to? They'll probably bring it to us, and if not, that's okay. But we're all about just teaching, helping.
So that's actually really cool that you say that too, because people, and I want them to understand that, and I want them to hear this, right? Because it's so transparent, right? It's we understand the value of pouring into other people. It always comes back around. This community, especially within the real estate entrepreneurial space, you find that a lot of the people are understanding of the go-giver ethos, of those laws of stratospheric success, where the more I give, the more I am able to receive, and not always necessarily looking to receive it from the person I gave to, just having faith that, hey, God's got it, right? God's going to circle it back around. No worries. You don't got it to give. Don't worry. He's got me. My job is to pour into you. That's the mission here. So,
everybody helping each other,
Yeah. And, and for me,
team sport.
Everybody's story is a little different. For me, it was, I was doing my dental business. I'm selling the CBCT machines that, panos that go around the head and do a scan of a person's skull and things like that for jaw movement, for teeth movement, things like that. And with that, it's I'll sell something, but that doctor buys that piece of equipment, he's set for the next 5 or 10 years, right? So for me, it's like I was always having to chase that next sale. And I'm like, there's got to be a better way to life than constantly having to change that next sale. And that's when I really started studying multifamily before I met David and those guys. I was like, let me look into multifamily. I've had single family, I've had rentals. I'm sort of tired of the single family realm. So I started studying multifamily, and I was like, even when I met David, I'm like, what do I have to lose? Like, if I can find a deal, I might not go in and be like, okay, I got 20% ownership or 100% ownership. But if I even get in at 3% or 5%, it's a step in the right direction. So don't think that you have to have a huge ownership stake into something. Even if you take a little piece, just to get started, just to get the experience. And by doing that, even if you take a little piece of like a 3% ownership or a 5% ownership, the people that are taking down that deal, you're going to learn from what they're doing to take down that deal. So that way it's building your confidence. So down the road, you can take down your own deal. But the idea is to learn and to surround yourself with those people to learn. So even if you just take a little small ownership percentage and let those people teach you, it's the best way to learn. Hands-on experience. Go for it. Go after it.
This is powerful, right? Because essentially, you're recognizing that direction matters more than speed. Like, it's just as long as you're moving in the right direction with the right people, that's the opportunity to jump into. And I
Yep.
love what you said, right? Where it's like, sometimes people hear like, I'm only getting 3%. It's like, you're looking at it way too small. You're looking at just one transaction, right? This is a relationship business. This is reoccurring. This is over and over and over and compounding on itself. The relationships compound, the time, the money, the energy, all that compounds to build. So being able to have that sort of foresight and be able to be around other people that also think. What I found, entrepreneurs, especially the higher levels, they think further and further and further into the future. They don't really concern themselves so much with just next week, next month. They're out there thinking about next year, next 5 years, next decade, next 2 decades. And they're living today from a place of out there, which is amazing.
Yep.
I love that.
Yep.
So I want to be respectful of you guys' time, right? And check this out. I like to ask this question near the end. I'm a big reader, right? I'm constantly, my nose is in a book, right? I learned a lot from, a lot of mentors who I've never even met face to face, but they've mentored me through their books, through their words. For myself, some of these books have been so mind shifting that my life has not been the same. I would like for each of you to share at least one book, and it can be any book about anything. It doesn't have to be real estate related. It can be literally anything that was a total paradigm shift for you. Like, you read this book and you've never quite gone back to being the same since.
I mean, I could start. I think mine, which really made me do like a mind shift, was Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Mm-hmm.
When I read that book, I was like, okay, I've got to change what I'm doing, right? And that was really, I mean, it created a whole sort of a movement for me. Was okay, I've read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I don't want to sit where I'm at. I'm trying to move bigger places, right? The idea is to leave a legacy for my family, for my kids. And the only way to do that is to change what I'm currently doing in the present, right? So that book really made me realize that I needed to change the direction and the trajectory of where I was going and moving to.
Such a powerful book.
Awesome.
How about yourself, David?
So me, never been a big reader. But I've been pushed over the years to read more. I think one of the ones that stands out is Four Pillars. I believe is the one, just basically about something along the lines of a guy that breaks down, and he shows up at the front of this house, and it's a big house. It probably has 4 pillars out front. And long short story of it is, this guy is a very wealthy guy through real estate, and he never really tells him until the end. And I think maybe the guy ends up dying, but that's one of the ones with me. Is just basically it was just another very inspiring story about a guy that was very well off, but was very private about it with this guy that he was trying to help or mentor, or something about him breaking down. And then he kept coming back for advice to this guy as a mentor. But the guy had never really said much about what he had. And I don't know, that inspired me. Just the fact that that's just one of those books that just really inspired me. think it's 4 pillars.
Mhm.
I like that.
Yeah.
And how about yourself, Sherry?
So I'm not a big reader either, but there are not in books anyway, it seems like. It seems like I read constantly throughout the day. But anyway, there was one, it's called You Can't Teach a Kid to Ride a Bike at a Seminar.
Ooh, such a
Mhm.
good book.
That was a good one. And there's also one, and I can't think of the name of it. It's been years and years ago, but it's about selling. I want to say it was something like the something laws of selling. But anyway, that was
Probably Zig Ziglar.
I
Maybe
probably,
Zig Ziglar.
probably. But anyway, it was a good book. And really, one of the things that I learned from that, and actually it was a girl that she taught me probably one of the biggest lessons, and it's one that I just told you about earlier, is my sister and I had a business where we worked our tail off, and we did event rentals for weddings. And we were, I'm telling you, breaking our backs, working ridiculous hours, bare sleep, our home life was falling apart. I mean, my house was horrible. Anyway, and this girl came in and she saw our mess, because we had a mess of a place. It was more work than what we could handle. And she comes in and she says, I want all your stuff at my wedding. She said, but I can't afford it. She said, but I'll come in here and I'll work for you. Every day that I'm off, I'll be here and I'll organize and I'll clean and I'll do whatever you need me to do if you'll decorate my wedding. And we said, okay, we need somebody to help clean us up. Please, you do that. We'll decorate your wedding. And I've told David this, it's one of the most powerful things that I learned was that she gave me something.
Mhm.
You know, she didn't come in and beat me down and say, you know, this is $10,000 and I only have one. Instead, she come in and said, if you'll do this for me, I'll do this for you. And but she said it in a much more sweeter way. As a matter of fact, she came in with a big old layout. She had drawn our whole shop and she had showed me how she was going to organize. I mean, she had invested some time in this.
Wow.
And that was one of the books. She worked for a jeweler, and she was kind of in sales, but for the jeweler. But anyway, so she had to do all these sales courses and stuff, and she brought me the book to read, and that was one of the things, is that to give, you know, and it made sense because, again, this wraps into the Bible. That's what he tells you to do.
Yep.
You know, it's kind of like if you just do what he tells you to do, things will normally work out. Well, things will always work
Mhm.
out. But anyway, so that was one of my, and it came from that sale. I wish I could think of the name of it, but it was a book about selling.
You know what's really cool about that is, especially what you just said, especially with that young woman that came into your life, you know, as she gave you the gift of this book, and she came in and she gave value first, right? Like she actually sold you on herself. She sold you on the value that she could bring in. And I love what you said, that she invested time. Like you can tell that it wasn't, you know, just this afterthought, right? But it was actually a very intentional, hey, how can I actually bring value, which is something especially a lot of newer individuals stepping into a room, stepping into a space, are trying to understand. Well, they've heard the concept of I want to bring value. So they see the millionaire, they're going to see you all. They're going to be like, wow, this team is so cool. I want to learn from them. I want to learn real estate from them. And I want to figure out how to bring them value. And this young woman, she actually took the time to, I imagine, come in at some point, observe the shop, actually take a look around.
Mhm.
And then she figured, okay, knowing herself, knowing her skill set, where she could add value, which is something that David and Paul spoke about earlier as well, on knowing yourself, knowing what your value add is, knowing what your strengths are, to be able to now say, you know, like Paul said, like I can now add my strength into this equation. So that's powerful.
Yep. Oh yeah. Everybody has a strength. Everybody has a talent, a gift. And so, you know, it's figuring out what yours is and doing something with it, you know.
I love that. So here's my final question. And this is one of my favorite questions to ask. And it goes a little something like this. I want you to imagine that each of you tomorrow, when you wake up, you are a total blank slate. You don't remember anything. I'm talking total memory erase, like it's like Men in Black where they flash you in the eyes. You know, you're not scared. You're not waking up. It's not like a horror movie, you know, but as you're coming to consciousness, You don't remember any of the lessons you've learned. You don't remember the books. You don't remember the experiences. You don't remember the deals, just none of the networking events. I'm talking totally blank. You start to have a thought. A thought comes to you, and you begin to immediately accept the thought, and there's no hesitation about it. There's no doubt about it. You just accept it as full on truth, 100% totally. And this first thought becomes the foundation for everything else to come. What would you ideally like that first thought to be?
Who do we ideally what? I missed that.
What would you ideally like for that first thought to be?
I could start. I mean, I think for me, would be asking for help, right? I mean, a lot of us, especially as entrepreneurs, as business owners, we try to do everything ourselves, right? We're like, oh, it's just easier. I'll just do it myself or whatever it is, right? But I mean, obviously, when you wake up, if you're not going to know anything, like ask for help, all right? And you start taking baby steps, and you have somebody start helping you and teaching you, and then you just going. And then if you're constantly asking for help, it can take you in the direction you want to go, whatever direction it is. It doesn't matter. But don't be afraid to ask for help.
First thing that comes to me is faith.
I like
Just
that.
having faith.
Some powerful answers. And how about yourself, Sherry?
Gosh, I don't know how to put it into words, but I want everybody to have better.
I like
Put that, for you to see what I see, but I just want everybody to have better. So what can I do to help, I guess, for everybody to have better?
This is amazing. I can see why this team works. At the core, there's a very strong resonance at the core for each of you, based off of your core values, just based off of those answers. I absolutely appreciate that. So I want to know now, for people that are listening and they're like, wow, I like this team. I like this squad. And, they want to take you up on your offer to come and to learn real estate, to get connected, just even, especially if they're in the area, to come out and meet you. How can they come out and meet up with y'all? Like, where should they go to find you? How do they find you online? Where should everybody go?
Sure. I mean, anybody can call me at any time. I always answer my phone. So, I mean, if anybody wants to jot down my number, it's 404-358-5469. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Paul, last name's Harmeyer, Harmeyer. And then you can always email me at paul@harmeyercapitalpartners.com.
And we basically, we're on all the different pages too, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. David, last name Preuss, Preuss. Cell number 678-457-8664. We have an office number 678-653-9394. You can connect through LinkedIn. You can connect through Facebook as a friend request. Maybe don't do the friend request on Facebook, maybe reach out to myself, because I get so many of them. And if I don't have a lot of connections, I may not connect with you, just so that it's just overwhelming sometimes. So yeah, just call us or just reach out to us through a cell phone or the office number. Always willing to help. No problem.
I love that. And Sherry's like, I'm keeping my privacy. She's like, I'm gonna.
David knows how I am.
The office number.
Yeah, the office number. Because I'll tell everybody this. David can tell you this. Whenever I get here of a morning, I plant my butt in this seat, and I hardly get up from this seat. I am hardcore at this all day long. And whenever I get home, I'm not wealthy enough yet to have a housekeeper or somebody meal prepping for our family. So those responsibilities fall on Mama Bear here. And so I try to give my family their time in the evenings. So anyway, but these guys, they definitely get their share as we have tasks that need to be done. So yes, call me on the office number. I am here.
I love that. I love this. And just fair warning, right? Like more and more listeners are plugging into the mind. More and more listeners are plugging into this show. So if people start calling you and they're just like, hey, I heard you on the podcast, you did it to yourselves. But they're always quality people. It's quality people that listen to it.
We'll send you a bill for it later.
No,
we're
I'm gonna tell everyone, like,
open.
if you reach out to the team here, make it valuable for yourselves and them. Bring a deal to the table, bring an opportunity to the table, bring something that you're struggling, bring a problem to the table so that you can all work together and learn versus just asking the hypotheticals, right? Bring something that you guys can all gain value from. At least that's my recommendation on how, if you're thinking, all right, how am I going to bring value to this team? Bring a deal. Just be like, hey, I found this deal. I'm not sure what to do with it. Bring that opportunity, bring that lead to the team. So
Sounds
I want to
awesome.
I want to say thank you so much for taking the time out of your day. Like, I mean, you literally driving, like, this is super cool that we're able to either make excuses or we can make results. And you all chose results today. So I appreciate you immensely for being here. I look forward to working with y'all in the future, some more staying connected and building. And thank you so much.
Thank you,
Hey,
Mark.
Yeah.
thank you so much. We really appreciate you having us on. It's been
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.